And welcome to Just Off Markham. I'm your host, Jason Pattyson. Everybody, thank you for jumping on today. We got a really special guest with us. We got the color analyst for the Arkansas Razorbacks, Coach Matt Zimmerman. Coach Z, how you doing today?
Oh, doing good, Jason. Shoot, it's game day in Fayetteville, so
Yes, it is.
excited and just anxious to go watch this team play again.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, it's a great day on the hill. You got baseball
Mhm.
starting up today, and it's a full slate for any Hog fan out there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, let's get into a little bit with Georgia tonight. How do you see Coach Musselman attacking that defense of Georgia tonight?
I think you'll see Arkansas just trying to speed the game up. I think that's been his motto for the last 3 days, in that we don't need to get playing slow. When Michael White's team, especially when he was at Florida, and he's kind of having to get that way again at Georgia, because right now he doesn't have a whole lot of depth, is he's got to kind of beat you in the 50s, maybe in the low 60s. He's kind of got to grind it out a little bit. And they do that with Georgia's offense, but they also do it with Georgia's defense. And sometimes it's sagging man-to-man. Sometimes it's pressuring a little bit in man-to-man. Sometimes it's playing zone defense. So I think Coach Musselman's plan of attack is we got to go fast. Faster, the better has been the MO for this team since November the 9th. We are not a better basketball team when we're playing slow and grinding and everything a possession, and then 30 seconds later possession, then 30 seconds later possession. That doesn't suit the Razorbacks the best. Most every time the Hogs take the floor, Jason, you're the most athletic team. Most of the time, you're the biggest team. Often, you're the fastest team. Athletically, Arkansas has few peers in the country. So, obviously, that bodes for playing fast, more possessions, and using athletic ability. And so, I think that'll be one of Coach's big points of emphasis. I know it has been the last 3 days. We got to go fast. Once the Hogs got the Florida game sped up and going fast, it was a blowout. As long as it was a grind it out the first 10 minutes, Florida can hang in there, So I think that's going to be his plan of attack. And we might see some zone. It's been crazy. Florida was not very good, right, on Saturday. That was
No,
not a
they
good
weren't. No.
basketball team. And they didn't play any zone. And so, if I'm getting smacked, and you got your best player out, your best defensive player, Colin Castleton. He's your best offensive player. He's your most versatile guy. You run your offense through him, and he's not there. I would have played some zone. That's just me personally. Not to their coach has to do what he thinks is best for him and his team. But we might see some zone here against Georgia. I think we will. But Georgia will start the game in man-to-man, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that Florida didn't revert back to a zone offense to try to slow the Razorbacks down a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that Mike White thought maybe this might be the best way that they may be able to defend Arkansas, which it wasn't. So
Yeah.
So with Mississippi State last weekend, we saw they were playing a little bit of a sagging man defense, and that really was kind of what got Arkansas in trouble a little bit. Do you think that Coach Musselman has kind of looked at that tape and saw some weaknesses where they could bust out of it? Maybe with adding Nick Smith in there a little bit more and help him with the jump shot a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is a priority for the offense, speeding up, getting out in transition. And the Mississippi State game was a game where it was a grind, and the Razorbacks got slowed down. And when you're at home, Hogs don't need to be scoring 64 in Bud Walton in a 40-minute game. That lost 70-64 to the Bulldogs. Before that game, we was talking to Chuck Barrett, and we were like, well, 70 is the number. We get to 70, we should win. Anything above 70, we should win. Anything below that, it's going to be a toss-up. Well, we only got 64 points, and you got to be in attack mode. It was Nick's first game back. He had been out a long time. Nick's only played 8 college games ever, and so he still has to get back in it. Hopefully we'll see Nick explode in this game. It would be nice before you go to Alabama and Tennessee. 2 games I'm not going to say are not winnable games. Both of those are winnable. Both of those teams have shown problems.
Yes.
Alabama, now they're both good. They're both good, but Alabama and Tennessee both at times this year have shown some warts, right? Alabama's got a lot going on in their program right now as they try to win the SEC. Tennessee is a very good defensive team. They don't score well. They have issues on the offensive end. So tonight against Georgia, let's play even better than you played against Florida, and then go on the road and get some wins. And this Arkansas team, to me, should be able to handle business. It won't be easy. Georgia's not going to come in there and lay down and just let you walk all over them. But Georgia just lost 106 to 50 or 108 to 59.
Yeah, they got woodshedded pretty good by Alabama.
They got smacked. And so Michael White is a good man. He's going to have pride about that. I guarantee you he's been all over Georgia Sunday. And then Monday, they traveled here yesterday to Fayetteville. They play tonight. I'm sure he's not been he and ha-ha. He's been pretty serious with them, I would think, Jason.
Yeah,
and I do think Georgia's a better team than Florida, especially with Colin Castleton not playing. So, you face that. But if you could put together a 40 minutes and beat this team worse than you beat Florida, I think that's a big sign for this basketball team growing and maturing as you're sitting here on February the 21st.
Let's talk a little bit about the team chemistry for just a second, because, 4 games ago, it looked like it was starting to really roll. You got onto a 4-game win streak. You add Nick Smith back into the mix. From a coaching perspective, how difficult could it be to add in such a premier talent like Nick Smith to a gelled team that was starting to kind of take the reins a little bit?
Well, it was a team that was playing very well, Jason. You go to Kentucky, and Kentucky's just not going to lay down for you. And the Razorbacks just absolutely smacked Kentucky, embarrassed them on their home floor, give them the second worst loss Kentucky's ever had to Arkansas in that arena. Only a trailing a game against Todd Day, Lee Mayberry, and Oliver Miller. And you play this game, and you don't want to have to worry about all that other stuff, the chemistry and who's getting along with who, and can we bring this guy in? Should we play him 17 minutes, or should we play him 4 minutes, or should we play him 31 minutes, which is what Nick's played the last 3 games. He's been here, he's been down here, he's been up here. And I think after the 2 losses, I think Coach Musselman and the staff decided, you know what, we're going to try to quit figuring out the 17 minutes or 5 minutes or 4 minutes. We're going to pull the Band-Aid off.
Yep.
And we're going to start him, and we're going to play him over 30 minutes, and then everyone's going to have to fall in. And Anthony Black doesn't have to fall into anybody because he is the best player on the team without question. So Nick has to continue to grow his game around Anthony Black. Anthony has to continue to learn to play with Nick in an SEC environment. And Devo and Ricky have to continue to grow and develop with Nick. There's no more of this, well, Nick might play. Nick might not play. We don't know how much Nick's going to play. When's Nick coming back? Where's Nick? Is Nick in Arkansas? Is Nick in California? Is Nick in Little Rock? All that's over. And Nick's here. And Coach, I think, did the right thing, pulling that Band-Aid off last Saturday against Florida and said, here you go. No more 5 minutes, no more 17 minutes, no more wondering go get your 31, 32 minutes, guard. Go to work. Go work, Nick Smith. And I think he's going to continue to do that. Now, is some other people's minutes going to go down? Yeah, there's only 200 minutes in a basketball game in college, Jason. And if you start giving somebody who's not been there 31 minutes a game, obviously they have to come from somewhere. And I think Jalen Graham's minutes are going to continue to go up. And that may impact the Mitchells just a little bit, may impact Jordan Walsh a little bit. And it's going to take a few minutes, but I think it helps. It's not like Ricky Council is going to go from playing 39 minutes in a SEC game to playing 25. He's not. No. But I do think that that Ricky's going to be able to go from 39 minutes and 20 seconds in an SEC game, maybe down to 33. That's 6 minutes that goes to Nick. And Anthony can go from playing 40 minutes to maybe playing 37 minutes. And those 3 minutes go to Nick. Devo can go playing 39 minutes to playing 35 minutes. And those 5 minutes go to Nick. Does that make sense?
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah, and that's what's happening, and that's what's going to continue to happen. So I think out of the 7 Hogs that were playing on a regular basis before Nick came back, all 7, because of 2 reasons, because of Nick and because of Jalen, I think that out of that, 6 of those 7 guys' minutes will probably go down. Now, Anthony's isn't going to go down much. It might go down a couple of minutes, but some guys are going to probably be better players because they're getting to rest some.
Yeah, that was kind of my next point I was going to make was, taking some minutes away from those starters isn't all necessarily a bad thing, because when you start to get into March, you're still going to need those fresh legs. And whenever you've got a freshman that has, in his first year in a collegiate level, playing 39 minutes a game, it does take a little bit of a toll.
Yeah,
I know that those kids play year round and AAU and so on.
But AAU and summer basketball, it's all very, very important. But it's not a 40-minute game at Texas A&M in front of 12,000, and it's not a game in Bud Walton Arena when it's 80 degrees in the arena and there's 20,000 there. It's not. And even a high school games are so. I was a high school coach. They're critically important. Some of them are extremely intense environments. But college basketball at this level, when you're trying to win a national championship, and that's what Arkansas needs to be trying to do. It's been done here. I don't think anybody on this team is sitting here going, hey, I just hope we make the Sweet 16. No, this team's trying to win a national championship, because that was what the goal was before the season when you have this kind of talent. And so I think that these guys' rest will be important for them as we go. And we want to keep our rotation good. We got a little bit of leeway behind the rotation, right? Right now we're probably an 8-man rotation, I would say. Jordan and the 2 Mitchells, that's 3. Nick and Devo, that's the starters, that's 5. And then off the bench, Ricky, Jalen, and Mikal, that's 8. And we've got 13 on scholarship. We know Trevin's got the anterior cruciate, so he's out. But that still leaves you 4 more scholarship guys that aren't playing any: Kamani, Joseph, Darian, and Barry. So even if you do have an injury or someone's sick for one game, you still got 4 quality guys. That's depth sitting there saying, I can come in and help you, coach. Florida didn't have they had about, he played 9 guys. To me, he had, probably 6 deep, that he really could count on. And then the other ones he was just trying to get some minutes from. To me, Joseph Pinion, Darian Ford, Barry Dunning, those guys would be playing minutes at Florida. Now, they wouldn't be on as good a team as they are at Arkansas, as evidenced by the fact that we beat them by 19 points. But does that make sense? I mean, we still have a lot of depth. And Coach isn't going to play 12 guys. Coach isn't going to play 11 guys. He's not going to play 10 guys unless it's a blowout. But he's got options. And if we're sitting there tonight and they're packing a zone and we're struggling to shoot it, he can turn to Joseph Pinion, who 2 times this year has came off the bench and busted up zones, scored 13 points in 2 different games. So Coach has done a good job recruiting in a lot of talent. There's a lot of high-level players on this team, and I think that's going to really show as we go through the rest of February and into the critical month of March.
Kind of looking forward for just a second. You look at Trevin Brazil, maybe even a Jordan Walsh. You see anybody that has had contributions this season, maybe coming back next season?
I think, and I can't speak of this, I small talk, visit with Coach and stuff, and, you get to listen to what he says. But just me talking, not Coach and not knowing. I don't think a lot of these guys know. I just think that there's going to be a lot of guys come back more than we think. I would be lying to you if I told you that Anthony Black was going to come back. It would be really, really nice if he did. Probably wouldn't be that smart because he's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, he is.
But there's questions from that point on down. And who could help themselves? Who needs more work? Who needs to get better? Even guys that are older and experienced that could still come back, like the Mitchells. They would help us next year. So, last year we only had 2 Hogs come back.
Yep.
Devo and Kamani. We will have way more than 2 come back. We'll have way more than 2 come back. I don't know if that's going to be, it's Coach Musselman now. Don't forget, it's Eric Musselman. He likes to maneuver in the off season. He is not afraid, and he loves the transfer portal, right? We already got 2 high school kids coming, 2 high-level high school players coming, high-level guys that are going to play, or at least we think that, right?
Yep.
And so at least 2 guys are not going to be here. And we know Kamani is done with eligibility. And so one more won't be here. And so do I think we're going to have 10 or 11 or 12 guys back? No, not in this era, not with Coach Musselman. But I do know it's not going to be a season where we got 2 guys coming back. I think the year before last, everybody could have came back. COVID was a free year. We went to the final. Every kid could have, Justin Smith could have came back. Jalen Tate, you know that? All those guys could have came back.
Yep. I was really crossing my fingers for Jalen Tate. I love that guy.
Oh, so good. The smooth operator.
He was.
And Jason, I think we had maybe 4 back. Connor came back, Devo, Jalen, JD Note. That might have been about it. We had 4 or 5 come back off that team. I think we'll have more than that this year. I just think a lot of these guys are going to come back. I think Ricky has got a really good chance to come back. I think he's got a taste of how good he can be. And I think he could use another year working under Coach Musselman and the whole staff. And I think that would help him a lot. And Jordan Walsh, I think the same thing, could really use another year coming back, being with a good staff that knows how to develop and do a good job. And, we don't know what's going to happen with Nick as the season finishes up here. We think we do, but you never know for sure. And, even Devo's been here 3 years. So hopefully he'll be back for a 4th. He should be.
Over the last 10 years or so, between with your coaching, also going into with Chuck and on radio, how much? Where would you say the biggest change in college basketball, as far as style goes, has taken place over those last maybe 10 years?
The biggest changes in college basketball over the last 10 years,
style-wise.
Oh, style, not like NIL or portal, not that kind of stuff.
No, I want to get to that in just a second.
Okay.
Though. I do want to get to that. But as far as style,
that just basketball, I think it was a big blow to us in how we played. Not excuse, it just didn't help us. About 8 years ago, when the NCAA kind of really started hammering that freedom of movement, and all of a sudden you went from 7 to 10 fouls being called on teams per game. Remember that first year they went into that, and everybody was having like 15 fouls a half. So there'd be 30 fouls, 15 on us and 15 on our opponent in the first half. In the second half, there'd be 14 on them and 13 on us. And at the end of the game, we'd fouled, 30 times and they'd fouled 27. It just chopped the game up. They've gotten a little bit better, but to me, that was the biggest thing. The NBA had done that years before that, the freedom of movement that helped the guys like the Steph Currys and guys that were a little bit smaller but quick, and now they couldn't get beat up and manhandled physically. And Nolan Richardson's teams were physical, beat you up, grabbed you. When you drove, you got hit. They armbarred you. Sometimes they hand check you. They kept hands on you. And when they eliminated all that, I think that was very impactful to college. And there's just been a lot of fouls called in college basketball over the last 8 years. There's been a lot of fouls, man, a lot of fouls. I saw a deal about 3 or 4 years ago. I was still coaching at the time, so maybe it's 5 years ago by now. And there was a game, okay, in the MAC, the MAC conference, Mid-American Conference, with Ohio and Miami of Ohio and Toledo and Akron and Central Michigan, all them. And there was a game in the MAC that had a foul, okay, on 16 straight possessions, 8 and 8. And I mean, so to me, that's been the biggest thing. And they've gotten a little better about letting them play. I'm not criticizing the officials. That was a rules committee change.
That's what we're going to call enforce.
Yeah. That's been a big deal. That's been a big deal. That has really been impactful of college. Now you can get smaller, quick guards if you want, and still be competitive because they're going to be able to move around quite a bit.
Do you see the NCAA maybe here in a year or two going back and looking at that and saying, okay, maybe we need to change this up a little bit and reinstituting maybe the freedom of movement?
I don't know. I mean, the rules committee, they add something usually. Sometimes they'll take something away. I just don't know. I think they're kind of liking where things are now. The fouls have eased up a little bit, but it's still called sometimes very tight. But like I watched the Kansas at TCU game last night, and they fouled each other a bunch. I mean, it was after watching SEC all the time, and it's a foul, this a foul, this a foul. You watch those two, they were going at it. And there was 10 trips in a row. There wasn't a foul, man. They were getting after each other. They were blocking shots. And I like that. I like that. I think but a rules committee is made up of people, and sometimes they want to make their mark while they're on the rules committee. So I do like the charge arc. I think that's good. Another rule that they should have would help pass the ball is when they got rid of the 5-second rule. Now, if you pick the ball up and I jump on you, you still have 5 seconds. But used to be if you were dribbling and I was within 6 feet of you, remember, they would start the count. Yep. And you could get a 5-second count. And what that made people do was what?
Move.
Get
out of the way.
Get open, pass the ball, or, try to drive and make a play or try to get 6 feet away from my defender. I watched a game the other night, and it came down to the last shot. There was like 27 seconds left. Shot clock's off. They threw the ball in. The young man dribbled down the half-court line. His defender was just about 2 to 3 feet from him in a defensive stance, but not trying to steal it. And that kid stood out at the half-court line and dribbled the whole thing. And finally, I'm like, are you going to go? Are you going to go? He thought he might go with 6 seconds left or 5 seconds. He finally would, the announcer's like, there's 3 seconds in. Finally, with 3 seconds, he just drove crazy and threw up a runner. Think he made it? No. Went off the side of the rim. They go to another overtime. And, I like if I'm all over you and I'm putting out energy and I'm within 6 feet of you, to me, you should get a 5-second count.
Definitely. And so let's talk about NIL for just a second.
I like my man's comment right here, Dylan Madden.
Yeah,
I like that. He said that. He said Devo would probably be one of the best players in America if there was still a 5-second rule. That's right. Don't you think he'd be trying to get 5 of them a game? He'd be all over guys.
Yeah, you definitely see some definite swarming past half court. You can definitely bank on that. How has the basketball team really benefited from NIL and with the Hunt Group and their initiative that they came out with and whenever JD Notte came into the fold with them at first, and then you saw the whole entire team get an NIL deal at the first of the season.
Yeah.
How do you think that helps with recruiting with Coach Muss?
I think it's huge. I mean, it's just something that, not just here, but anywhere you couldn't do, and now you can do that. And you have people stepping up like that. And the One Arkansas NIL and all these other groups that are even private groups that are, whether it's UAMS or, restaurants in town or Sassy's, all these people that are giving money to these student athletes so they can use their name, image, and likeness. It's really interesting. I hated it. I don't hate it. I feel bad for the smaller schools because they can't compete. They can't do that. So, it's nice that the great players, because I've known many, many, many Razorback basketball players since 1986 when I came up here, and a lot of them came here with very little to nothing. Lindsey Howell didn't have much when he was here, who's now passed away. Ron Hury came here, McDonald's All-American. In today's world, he would make a lot of money, name, image, and likeness. He didn't have a whole lot. Mario Credit. Some of these guys, they weren't starving. They got fed, but they didn't have cars, and they didn't have a lot of nice stuff, and they were trying to get by. And they'll say that. A lot of our football players will say that. They didn't have much. Some of our other sports, those kids just come from families that have a lot more money. It's a different kind of deal. But for football and basketball kids, this is really good, and it really helps them. Track athletes and even kids that are in sports that you think have money, like golf or tennis or swimming, but it can really help them fill out those scholarships if they're not on a full ride. But I think that we have a lot of guys that make a lot of money. And I do think Arkansas is doing very well in name, image, and likeness. And I congratulate those kids for being able to get it and then for working and earning it, because they have to do stuff for that name, image, and likeness. That's a positive. And I wish that Lindsey Howell could have came here, and he was a great player. He was a Midwest Regional MVP. I wish he could have came here and, and made $50,000 on top of his scholarship, or $20,000. It'd have been nice for him to make $3,000. Now kids get cost of attendance. That's several $1,000s they get on top of their scholarship. That was a great thing the NCAA put in about a decade ago. maybe longer than that, 12 years ago, probably by now.
Mm-hmm.
And then now when they get that money from the SEC, if they're doing well and they're hanging in there academically and they're not in trouble, that's another $6,000 to $7,000 a year that they can get. And now you've made $8,000 or $9,000 on cost of attendance. You add that with that, now you're talking $15,000, $16,000.
Yep.
And there's so many other, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can go get something from Sassy's or Wright's Barbecue or somewhere, Nukes, and next thing you know, hey, they're giving me $5,000 to do this, or maybe UAMS is giving me 10. Next thing you know, you got a kid that can be making a lot of money.
It adds up fast.
It adds up. And then some of your football guys, your big names, there's probably going to be 5 or 6 of those every year. They're not going to be making 10, 15,000. That's what's going to be your everyday scholarship guys. Are going to be making 10, 15, 20,000. And then your big time basketball guys, they're going to make it. They're going to make a lot of money. And that's a good thing for them and for their families. And really it gives them a chance to leave college with a big head start over what Ron Hury or Lindsey Howe, Quinn Grovey, all these guys that come here and didn't get that. Corliss Williamson, Sidney Moncrief, Alex Dillard, all these guys had to come in, and then they were just on a scholarship. That's all they were on. And now you can make all this extra. And I think that's a good thing for them. And college sports is big money. And now the student athletes are cashing in on that money. And it's kind of evolving. I don't want to say it's professional sports, but it's hard to argue it, right? I mean, when you're getting paid to this degree, it is lining up to be more professional. Like when someone is paying you a lot of money to play, and all your food's taken care of, and all your scholarships taken care of, and all your gear's taken care of, and all your travel, and you have strength coaches, and you have a nutritionist, and you have sports psychologists, you have academic support, you have athletic directors, deputy athletic directors, compliance people, masseuses. I mean, you have all this stuff. That might be better than the pros.
That's true. I want to bring up a point that I made on my podcast last week, that some of these players, like you were talking about, maybe like a Lindsey Howell, for instance, or now maybe KJ Jefferson, for instance, and if they don't, they go to the pros, they may have a cup of coffee in there at the pro level, and that might be it. The majority of the money that they make may be in college. And it's really important on how they invest it, they use it, and how KJ, for instance, investing in his community that you may not have ever had before.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how those impactful dollars are able to help these student athletes pass college. For sure.
It helps them so much. And, if they can invest it, especially if they're getting paid big money. If you got a kid here and he's making, $200,000 to $1 million, obviously they don't need $1 million to survive in Fayetteville when everything's paid for them. So invest that money, be smart with it, take care of it. And then just in case something does not happen for you where you're making $50,000, $50 million a year, like a Bobby Portis or a Daniel Gafford, or over a 4 or 5 year contract making $48 million, not everyone's going to get that. And so you have to plan, invest, just like I do as a man, and just like you do as a man. And, we all have to put our nest egg away. And that's what you hope these student athletes learn early, is that, hey, I've got everything paid for and I'm making $50,000. Well, I don't need $50,000 right now. Everything's paid for. So I'm going to spend $5,000 this right now. I'm going to have a good cell phone. I'm going to have some nice clothes and, this and that. And I'm going to put that money away, and I'm going to save, or I'm going to invest it. And I think it's a great opportunity for these people to really get ahead as they go into life. Now, if they don't make it in the pros, but hopefully they've learned in throughout sports and throughout college athletics, high school athletics, that although when they don't make it through pro, that they have learned a tremendous work ethic from their coaches, is what you hope. And then that way they can leave. I just got cut by the Buffalo Bills, or I just got cut by the Philadelphia 76ers. You don't want them turning around saying, you've been given it to me. Give it to me. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not playing for the Razorbacks no more. You're not playing for the Buffalo Bills no more. Hope you invested and hope you got a lot of that money. And if you did, or if you didn't, you may have to go get a job. And hopefully they have that work ethic and that mentality. I think most all of our athletes do. But you got to hope that they've got that work ethic, that they're like, okay, this was a great run. I made all this money. I've invested money. I've been smart. I've got a great work ethic. Boom. Let me become a high school football coach. Boom. Let me become a banker. Boom. Let me go to law school, get my law degree, and I'm going to be a great attorney in Little Rock. Or let me go do this or that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it sure
Because
does.
you don't want to make it to where you just give, and they go play 1 year for the Los Angeles Rams and they get hurt or get cut and they turn around and say, everyone's been given to me ever since just because I played very good football. Now give me some more. Well, you're not playing football no more, so you got to go to work. And I think that we're preparing our student athletes for that.
Yeah, that's what's so great about with what, for instance, Coach Richardson did for so many years. It wasn't about the practice itself that was so grueling. It was the whole fact that he was making sure that you were set up after he left the campus with that work ethic in mind and already ingrained and instilled in them. And does he still have players that still to this day that, I know he keeps in touch with them quite a bit, but I mean, does he have players that, he still keeps in touch with that is able to give like pointers and other folks that he may just talk to on a more daily basis than we know of?
I think so. I know Coach talks to a lot of his former players, and I think any former coach, you're so proud of all your guys that have these great success stories, the Corliss Williamsons, the Scotty Thurmans, a John Inskoff, who's does very well in Little Rock in business, who was a walk-on the national championship team and does very well. And Blake Edens, who played for Coach Richardson, who came here from Montgomery, Alabama. He learned under Coach. He played under Coach and never left the state of Arkansas. He came here because one guy saw him and thought he was a good basketball player. Blake Edens and Nolan Richardson relationship. And now Blake lives in Little Rock. He's a lobbyist. He does great. He has an impact on our state. And I think there's a lot of other players you can name like that. And obviously football's got even more because of all the kids. But you got all these people that have an impact. And I do think as a coach, I know I still do. I know Coach Richardson does. And I know a lot of high school coaches probably do too. You also have those guys that have struggled and that aren't doing that well, Jason. And sometimes they hit up old coach and they need some help, and sometimes it's advice. And sometimes it's, I need some help paying my electricity, my electric bill. Have I ever been hit up by a former player to help them? Yeah, I think most every coach has. I think if you've coached more than a couple of years, you've probably had a former player reach out to you that's in a tough spot, and so you want them all to just be happy and you want them to be successful and you want them to feel good as they leave. And most of them do, but then you do have sometimes that life is a battle and it's a struggle for them.
Yeah. I think it was really interesting that you see Justin Smith, maybe for instance, or Stanley Amude. They came back for All-Star Weekend. These are players that played, Justin Smith was at Indiana for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Stanley Amude was at South Dakota for 4 years.
Yeah.
And they could have went back to those schools during All-Star break, but where'd they go? They were over there center court watching the Hogs. I think that also says a lot about the relationship that Coach Musselman has with those players. Even if they are here for just a year, he makes such an indelible impact on their life just in that short span of time.
Yeah, coaches do that. And by the way, if you leave and you transfer somewhere else, you don't normally go back too much. You might go back like 20 years later when they have a reunion or something.
That's true.
I mean, no offense, but like a guy like a Desi Sills leaves, he's playing at K-State. He's probably not going to come back here for a while. He might come back in 10 or 15 years, but you know what I mean? It's just it's kind of your last school. Wherever your last school is, that's the one you kind of identify with as a former player. But you're right. I mean, Justin Smith could have gone back to Indiana. No one from Indiana would probably keep him from doing that, but he came to Arkansas and he was only here 1 year. So that is a good point. And I think we got good coaches. I think we got coaches that work hard and they want to win. They want to win. And is any coach perfect? Absolutely not. No coach is perfect. I don't know of any coach that's undefeated every year. Doesn't happen. So there's issues, there's battles. But, the Razorbacks are sitting in a good spot. You had coaches first year, wasn't a bad year, but ended up being the 11th seed in the SEC tournament. You probably weren't going to make the NCAA tournament. I think we'd had to win the SEC tournament to do that, maybe make the finals. But then the second year, he finishes second in the SEC, makes the Final Eight. Last year we finished 4th in the SEC, made the Final 8. And that says a whole lot right there. And when we're sitting here on February 21st and we're still thinking we got a chance to win a national championship, I think that says a whole lot about where this Razorback basketball program is under not only Coach Musk, but the entire staff. It is a good staff.
Well, Coach Z, I really thank you for jumping on with me. I know you got a lot of busy schedule. You got the ball game tonight.
Yeah.
I do have one question for you. You go to the ballpark. Are you a hamburger or are you a hot dog man?
At Baum Walker Stadium, because I worked right here at the foundation, so it's real close to me. If I'm at a baseball game, I'm always going to get a hot dog. If I was in if I was in Bud Walton tonight for basketball, or if I'm in a high school gym or a college game, SEC tournament, I'm going to see if I can find a concession stand that's got a burger. If I can get a burger. If not, I'll get a hot dog second. But for baseball,
Gotcha.
I get the hot dog first at baseball. It's just a baseball thing. And let me ask you this. We asked this on the Razorback Daily. Quinn Grovey, when we do some interviews with some student athletes, he always likes to ask them, Jason, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I guess if you really, I know I'm not trying to be contextual when I say this, when you split it one way or another, I mean, you can make it into a sandwich, but I don't know. I don't think it is a sandwich. Yes, it is it is a slice of bread that's been split down the middle, but it is still connected. So to me, that is not a hot.
Right.
It's not a sandwich. It's a hot dog.
That's what most all of our student athletes say, that it is not a sandwich. But we've had a couple softball players say it was a sandwich, and KJ Jefferson said it was definitely not a sandwich, so he agreed with you. And Jaden Hazelwood, remember Hazelwood? He said it was definitely not a sandwich. But it's now we interviewed Connor Vanover a couple of years ago when he was in the rotation, that first Final 8 team, and Connor said it is absolutely a sandwich. So you get all kinds of answers. You get all kinds of answers on it. But by the way, Connor Vanover, I think, is 2nd or 3rd right now in the country in block shots. And that's an example of transferring the right way.
Definitely.
He's an Arkansas kid. There was no animosity, and he played a lot the first year he could play. And then last year he wasn't playing as much. Yeah. And he made a right transfer. And what I really appreciate about what he did, I think it looks like he transferred to the right spot. I think him and his family, his mom, Robin, I think they researched it, found a spot they fit, found coaches that they liked. They go to Oral Roberts. And if you're 2nd or 3rd in the nation, and I looked the other day, he was 3rd. And the next time I looked, he was 2nd. So he's right in there. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? And that's what you want. You want to go somewhere and make an impact in a positive way, just like we were talking about Justin Smith did.
Yep. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that they're 21-4 in the season.
They're having a good year. They're having a good season. You remember the good little guard, Max, that played against us 2 years ago. He is still there. He is still there. So Dylan Madden said, "Is a hot dog a sandwich?" We say no, Dylan. It is not a sandwich.
It is not a sandwich, Dylan.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah. He can take that to the man cave tonight on his show too. So, well, Coach, thank you so much for jumping on, and look forward to maybe hopefully chatting with you in the future.